Let's take a look at Tezos together. So my videos today have been a bit slower and a bit more detailed across the board for all of them, and I don't know if I'll be able to do that with the Tezos one as well, but let's just have a look and see how things are going. Thank you so much for being a part of this community. I really do appreciate it. Like and subscribe if you're new here, and let's just dive on into the chart, shall we, and take a look at what's going on. I'll hide all the drawings for now. We'll look at Bitcoin versus, Tezos versus Bitcoin, and then we'll look at the dollar parent thereafter and see how things are all shaping up. If we look here against Bitcoin, you can see that we've got a high in here, which is higher than our previous highs. Good to see. It's not bearishly divergent on the RSI. The stochastics, mind you, it is bearishly divergent, you could say, but overall, really, when we're looking at this area and saying it's just been kind of consolidating in this area, because at the same time we've had lows coming in, low and then a lower low. So is this actually been a downtrend? And that, so looking again at this and seeing, well, it's slightly, like these are convergent. So it's debatable, because if this was an uptrend, then you wouldn't be having the lower lows, but you do have higher highs. So we're kind of, broadening type structure here. So if I just put the drawings back on, you can see how I was looking at a descending type broadening wedge here, which potentially we're breaking up above now. Of course, we've got this yellow line coming in, 250% retracement areas, and we know that that's always going to be the case. So 3,109 Satoshis was what we were talking about, wanting to get above before. It's amazing that we're talking, that these things are coming in at, within 1 or 2 Satoshis, like yesterday's video and stuff like that, within 1 or 2 Satoshis of the levels. That's just luck, by the way. Like, don't. I'm not some sort of god, I just want everybody to know that what we actually focus at is risk management here, and that the price is coming in so close to within a Satoshi or two, of what we're talking about on the videos is mostly coincidental. Somebody did leave a comment saying that they were impressed with the accuracy, and I just want to say that that's great, and I find that very flattering, and I like it very much, and that's super duper, and everybody loves compliments and whatnot, but what we actually focus on is risk management here. So I don't want to mislead anybody when and especially not by doing it with accurate levels. Instead, what we focus at is risk management. So just so you know, but. Hey, it's nice to get a compliment. It's nice to be, to feel like you're correct. If trading, honestly, if your ambition in trading is to be right or wrong, then you'll have issues, because it isn't about being right or wrong. It really isn't. It's about being able to know when you're wrong and rapidly adjust, towards that new situation, more so than it is to sort of be determined to be right. In fact, if there's anything, if you want to have a sort of paraphrase on it at all, look at it and say that the goal is to discover as quickly as possible when you're wrong, rather than to try and be right. Okay, so anyhow, we're doing really well overall here. I want to see the prices move up another 9 Satoshis here, 10 Satoshis or whatever that is, and get up. Now, as we see the prices are dropping off a little bit just here, if they do drop back down the way, I want to see them supported by this downward sloping trend line here around about that sort of 3,030. If it does go down below, then for a higher low coming in here, 2,975 would be happy enough, where they've got the 21 EMA at, which is above the 55 EMA, and is the positive trend type indicator for us just there. And if we were to be sort of quite sort of, if we want to be kind of crazy about things, we could put a little bit of a measured move on there and say that we're looking up towards this line where the 50% retrace is for our next target, at 3,180. Can we just call it 3,190 for argument's sake? That's the sort of the next target towards the top side, should we manage to kind of get some follow through. But of course, the first area of resistance for us is this 3,109 area, and I'd like to see prices go on. But we have to bear in mind as well that it's the Bitcoin pairing is going to have an influence for us on this thing. But as we see with Bitcoin versus dollars, as we see here, there's an upward increase in volume as we're kind of coming up out of this shape, so that's good to see. And then if we just stick the oscillators back on again and have a quick reminder, the RSI is not divergent, whereas the other two oscillators down below are conceivably divergent. But again, just as a reminder that in this shape, as you have higher highs and higher lows, that it's easy to mislead yourself or indeed to have confirmation bias when you're looking for those things during that. So I tend to just avoid doing that. Let's go over to the dollar pairing. and ask a couple of things. Of course, there's a lot of, let's just go to a different dollar pair, in fact, so there's less noise in the chart. We were talking before about a couple of different targets here, and in terms of if this was, you know, an inverse head and shoulders, for example, you know, that's just a discussion point. It isn't, textbook wise, by definition, it isn't, because for it to be one, it has to not have this upward movement beforehand. If you're going to be like Mr. Textbook about things, or, you know, a pedant, but you know, whatever. And but there's other things on the go as well. Like, could this have been a sort of cup with handle within cup with handle within cup with handle type formation as well? And we know that it could have been, you know, there's there's the bigger one, and oh, jeepers, excuse me. So there's the bigger one, and then could we have a handle here and then go up past this, having got a twin peaks sort of effort here, and go up towards our next target thereafter as we could. What did we have here in between times? I'll just undo all them so you can see then as well that in between times we had this, you know, peak here, we had this downward slope here, and then we've come up as a result thereafter as well. So you've got that sort of, you know, there's always patterns within patterns thing that we talked about before. As you can see as well, the volume dropping right off here, you know, and then coming up again and stuff like that. It does look to be the case, you know, the increase in volume on the drop down here as well. So there's like various factors about this thing, which make it so that it kind of does line up with those philosophies or patterns or whatever. But generally speaking, you know, we've got a couple of things just to make life easy on ourselves. Or we know that 296 is going to be an area for resistance, like we've seen here over the last wee while, and right now we're right there at the moment. So this would be an okay place. I'm not a financial advisor, no, this is financial advice. An okay place to, for instance, take profit at. An okay place for managing risk for either direction. You know, I'm also not biased about which way you trade things. Of course, I really like this coin and want it to do well. You know, like obviously, just like, but that goes without saying. I'm a trader first, so you know, you could easily use this line to manage your risk for a short-term short. I don't know where exactly would be the best idea for taking profit at. I suppose if I had to just choose an area, it would have to be, you know, just there. You know, it's not like you're not talking about anything super fantastic here. Really, just like this sort of idea where you'd be taking profit at $2.85. You know, if that was the case, and then again back up again. So you're talking like 11-cent sort of move there. And then towards the top side, you're looking towards 318 as being your next level. 318 maybe just being a bit, you know, like in terms of just being on the greedy side, I suppose. If you were just purely operating in terms of just trading this short term, you'd be looking towards, you know, this previous wick over here and up here, you know, $3.10 or $3.09 or 11, something like that. So, you know, you've got 10 cents up or 10 cents down from where you're really looking at, with this line in between being your risk management line, depending on whatever way you're playing it, you know. A break up above here, maybe you get a retest of this and you could have an easily enough managed risk long, for instance, as well. But if this did turn out to be a cup with handle again and had another drop off, then you could be looking at a similar sort of, you know, in terms of just the movement down the way. Looking at here, you know, you're looking at a 10% move down in terms of the prices. So if they were to drop down 10% again, you know, then you'd be looking down here and saying 368 or 268, 265, and that would be coming in with a higher low really overall as well, considering that this previous low was actually just part of this upward movement in price action. So that's your high, that's your previous low. So you could have a previous low coming in anywhere, you know, 275, or you've got the 21 EMA at, for instance, would be an area. There's this big node here, so overall I wouldn't like to see it dropping down to 265 and going past this area. And I expect there to be, you know, there'd be a lot of there would be liquidity in this area for price action. As we look at the 24-hour chart, you can see the candle for today, and we're actually fairly deep into the day at 6:30 already. Is absolutely tiny. Hopefully that means that we're building up for an upward movement. Again, looking over here, you know, compared to the previous sort of movement upwards from the 12th of May, we're not divergent. If you look here at the just here at the sort of 10th of May to where we are now, we actually are kind of slightly divergent. You know, just this high here was lower than the one we just put in is high. This price action here is higher than here, and this is higher on the oscillator than here. But you know, if that's just a warning sign in the face of a potential move up overall, as you can see here with the ADX line, again, it's come down below 15. You know, in areas where you get volatility at, and maybe I should have this look like, you know, a serrated line on here. at sort of 15, so that I don't ever have to, like, I don't have to point that out constantly. But you've got volatility territory in these areas. When it drops down below, it could have that. Maybe it's been a bit generous there, that one. So we want to see this turn around. I'm actually going to get rid of that. I don't like having that. There's a reason I don't use that like that. It's just speculative to talk like that. So yeah, anyway, but there's the potential for volatility in the face of this, and that could go in either direction. So that's why it's easier to manage your risk in around those lines that we're talking about, with 275, for instance, 295 and 315 as being the three areas to look to. Moving beyond there, then I think 350 is actually a realistic target. There's obviously this area in between times of 335, and I would be aware of that. That's where the previous the sort of the shoulder of this head and shoulders was at, and that's an obvious, like, sort of target and interesting area for us. But then moving beyond that, you can see on the VPVR it drops right off, and that you could go then directly to 350 thereafter. So that's what I'd be looking towards if that was the case. Generally speaking, things are looking quite good. Go down to a 12-hour time frame, maybe you get a bit more detail in terms of this is it divergent or not. RSI isn't, but the DMI and the stochastics looks to be kind of just between this area. No, the DMI isn't, and the stochastics is, and the RSI isn't. So you've got the stochastics being a wee bit divergent, but these, in terms of the trend oscillators, the DMI and the RSI being more sort of significant for trends, you're looking like it's okay just now. So let's just see how it pans out. Want to see, first off, prices move above $2.96, $2.9666. Sat there the whole time we've been talking, more or less, and that could be quite good. Let's look over at the HIP BTC chart, where you can kind of get the madness. It's always good to have a bit of madness on the go. It's the same sort of dealio, except we're looking at being sort of supported as opposed to resisted right now. We're looking to see if we can get above this previous high here, in terms of this, what we're talking about. The previous high to that is at 295. Everything's been shrinking down here and becoming tighter and tighter on the DMI as we look for some sort of turnaround. And are we divergent here? We are slightly as well in the last couple of highs, but that's a bit much to say so on the stochastics. The RSI escapes that overall. Anyway, let's skip all of that and just do for a real quick, because I thought, hey, if people have stuck it through this far in the video, then they'll probably be interested in fact, I'll stick it on here, and they'll probably be interested in having a wee look at Tezos versus Ethereum in a world on, this is Kraken, I think, in a world where we're all looking to see whether or not Tezos will eventually kill Ethereum, right? This is what we want to know in the long term. So 24-hour time frame, we've been consolidating essentially versus the Ethereum price for quite a while, but we have seen, things are looking okay. Like, we've had a retracement so far, and that's okay to have seen that retracement coming in. The previous movement towards the top side had managed to do it without the divergence really looking back the way across any of the oscillators, but they were quite extended and needed to reset, and we've managed to do that. And in a sense, as we've done it, we've come in and potentially put in some hidden bullish divergence. Is that right? Yeah, this and this. Yeah, so we've got a little bit of hidden bullish divergence on the go compared to the previous low over here, which is good to see. What about this one? No, but the RSI is kind of maybe better for that. And we're above 20 here on this, so there's a strength of trend, but currently those are dollars a downside. I want to see the wrap around, back around again, and come towards an upside trend. There will be questions being asked in at the 21 EMA here, and then up and beyond. I don't know what to call this, 0.012 Ethereum, and then the 50 moving average in there. So we could see things moving towards the top side. All right, that could be quite good for us. It could be, but if we see things breaking down any further, then that would be potentially bad news. So the sort of the downward side target, again, of course, breaking down below this 200 simple moving average, essentially, which will be a confluence with breaking down below this previous low at what's that, 0.011, so 11. So you want to be above 11 or whatever, okay, we'll call it that, and maintain that and turn around the prices here at this point. The volume's just starting to come back in again, perhaps, as we see this. Is this stopping volume, this candle here? I think it could be, just in the way that this was stopping volume over here, or starting volume. If you want to look at it that way, this candle here is like bigger than the ones in between. You could look at that as being starting volume for the downward trend, and then this candle here and this subsequent one being maybe perhaps stopping volume and then starting volume again for sort of moving upwards. That could be the case, Let's let's go up towards the weekly time frame, because this is what I really wanted to show off. In terms of Ethereum and Tezos, is this the coin that's going to eventually kill Ethereum? Here's a high, here's a higher low. This is a lower high. Let's just start here instead. So since July 2019, we've got a low, a high, higher low, a higher high, higher low, higher high, higher low, higher high, higher low that we've just put in there now as things are going on the way up. We've got a bit of bullish or bearish divergence on the last couple of peaks. Hopefully this jaggedness down here is to an extent the oscillator's resetting and then coming in with a touch of hidden bullish divergence on the last low just here. So I want to say that in terms of the weekly time frame for Tezos versus Ethereum, that there's a chance that things could turn around, at this point here and move towards the top side and be quite positive. And I think that's what everybody in the Tezos community wanted to hear anyway. But I couldn't have talked about this last week or the previous weeks, any time I looked at it. But just now, just happens to be like it's now ripe to talk about it. And I think it's about time that we did. If we can see this come in, of course, caveat here, if we can come in and this to actually be the local low, there is every chance in the world that this continues to go on down the way. And we'll look towards the 21 moving average on the weekly there, 11.7 to operate as support. But if it goes on up again and we're looking up to that 14 area and we get higher than that, then we're doing it with a bit of hidden bullish divergence. We've reset the oscillator slightly. As you can see here, we had a bearish divergence coming in between these highs here on the between this high and the next high, this high and this high on the stochastics, and then since then between this high and the previous high it's gone back to being okay again, and with a touch of actual hidden bearish divergence between this low and this low. If this is the low, if, big question mark, if, I'll just draw on there, if, okay, if, right? If this is the low, then you could see that having been hidden bullish divergence and the oscillators having reset at that point, and that would be good to see. And then of course you've got this overall upward price action. So let's hope for that to be good. In which case you could be looking at a decent enough percentage move up again, just going for a higher high. Because this is a weekly time frame, so it doesn't take much in terms of the size of this to be good. And you could see over the period of say the next month or two, 25 to 30% increase in the price, or even perhaps even as high as 40% increase against the price of Ethereum. That'd be quite good, especially if the Ethereum prices were to go ahead and just drop down a wee bit here. Looking at, that's the wrong chart, looking at Ethereum versus the US dollar, for instance, you could see a turnaround here just over the next, this is the weekly chart. Say we come back down to revisit this area of say 220 over the next couple of weeks, and things move around, and maybe that would be the start of the trend shift for us with the Tezos. Okay, so that's a bit of fun. That's quite good, I think, to have stuck through at the end of the video to have seen, and I really appreciate you tuning in. So thanks so much. Share this video with a friend if you've got one that you think would like it, and I hope you have a wonderful day. All of my videos today have been a lot longer than they normally are. I'm just doing it as a sort of thank you to everybody, and I'm going to go back to doing much shorter videos tomorrow. I assume I will. But yeah, again, if there's one other thing I would say is watch that Bitcoin video that I put out earlier on today. Again, a lot of good information in that one for everyone. Thanks so much for tuning in. I'll catch you in the next episode.